Okay. For those of you who just joined, there's a QR code projected on my screen. If you go ahead, take a photo or scan it, it's going to take you to our registration. So if you could please fill that out before we begin, that'd be awesome. All right. And then while all of you fill that out, I'm just going to say if you could have your cameras on, that'd be great. It makes me feel like I'm not talking to an empty room. It's also good for me to put a face to the application for those of you who are applying this year. Again, really appreciate it. Makes it more, less lonely on my part because again, I do these all day, and being able to see faces, being able to interact with students is great on my portion. So thank you for those of you who just turned your cameras on. Really, really appreciate it. Again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Tyler Swartout. I'm one of the admissions counselor in the Office of Admission. I primarily work with students from Sacramento, northern parts of the Central Valley, such as Fresno, along with Florida and parts of Canada. So I'm also from Sacramento. I did graduate from, if you know, Bella Vista High School a long time ago. So I do know this area pretty well. I'm really excited to be able to work with students from my hometown. Today's program, we'll be talking about the university for those of you who only know us by our name or football. So we'll be talking about academics. We'll also be talking about student life, along with the admissions process and financial aid. So quick show of hands or the thumbs up emoji, which is on the bottom left, is one of the options. Who's a senior out here? Okay, Andrew's a senior, looks like. And then, sorry, I have to go up and down. It looks okay. I doubt we only have one senior, but I imagine there's a few out of you out there. So I will be talking about the admissions process. So if you have any questions about that, please, this is the opportunity for you or one of the people that will read your application to, be able to ask questions too. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. So USC at a glance. So we are a private research institution founded in 1880. We are welcoming our 141st class this year. We are considered an urban campus considering our proximity to downtown Los Angeles, about 3 miles away. We are also private. We're separate from the UC system and the CSU system. So being private also means we charge the same tuition rate for our in-state, out-of-state, and our international students. We're considered residential, mostly because most of our students do live on or near campus, and we welcome students from all 50 states, 5 US territories, and over 120 different countries. You'll see that our total enrollment is more than 46,000, which is a really big number, but I'm going to break it down a little bit. So more than half of those students are graduate students, so students who are pursuing master's or a PhD. Our undergraduate population, so students who are pursuing a bachelor's or fresh out of high school, mostly everyone here, is 20,000. Still a big number. I'm going to break it down a little bit more. We have an average class size of 26 with an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. To put that into perspective, the average class size in the Elk Grove district is around 31. Student to faculty ratio is around 18-to-1. So what we do very well is give you that small school feeling in the context of a large university, or give you an education that's similar to a small liberal arts college. Now, what they do at a small liberal arts college is give you an education that's something called interdisciplinary studies, kind of like a Renaissance scholar. So we have students who are interested in multiple subjects, and they can definitely take advantage of their academic curiosities here. We have students who could double major, they can double minor. We have over 180 majors and 250 minors for our students to choose from. Some of the minors can be pretty broad, such as physics or economics. Some of them can be very unique or niche. One's called disruptive innovation. If you never heard of it, that's okay, neither have I, but it really goes to show that there's a wide variety of interests for you to take out here. Additionally, I want to mention that it's okay for you to change majors sometime in your college career. We understand that asking a bunch of 18-year-olds what they want to do for the rest of their lives is pretty big, and plans can change. So we also want to say that if you want to change your majors, you absolutely can. Our curriculum does offer this type of flexibility. Depending on the major that you're trying to change into, it can be very easy as signing a form and letting your advisor know. Sometimes it can require additional steps, such as taking extra classes or interview or even an audition process, depending on what you're trying to change into. But again, no matter what you do, you will be supported along the way. We have an education in the curriculum that is both broad and simultaneously deep. It's theoretical, but also very practical in the real world. Now, What we also consider something as important as interdisciplinary studies is research. So it really is the hallmark of USC. It's conducted in every field and enterprise. For example, it's not just limited to the STEM sciences. You could be doing research in sustainability in the context of public transportation. You could be doing game design and create certain games that help patients deal with Parkinson's disease. You can also doing semantics and the impact the English language has on child development. Those are some of the opportunities that our student ambassadors are taking advantage of. We have two programs specifically that helps out with research. One's called SURF, Summer Undergraduate Research Fund. It's an opportunity for you to do research with a professor on or off campus during the summer months. One of the more popular options is marine biology and environmental studies research at Catalina Island, which is what you see in this photo here. The other one is called SOAR, Student Opportunities for Academic Research. You do research in conjunction with the professor during the academic year. Again, these programs really vary. They range, so you could be doing research in whatever field or subject that they want to. It's a great way for you to build off your resume for advanced degrees for anyone that's interested in medical school or even grad school, even for post-grad jobs as well. Our faculty are contractually obligated to do research on campus, which means that if they want to teach here, they have to be doing some type of research, and they make a lot of their opportunities specific for undergraduate students. But what we find as important as research and interdisciplinary studies is global perspectives. USC's educational philosophy revolves around this idea. We believe that a 21st century education is essential to have global perspectives and not just derived from American cultures and tradition. Even USC's first class in 1880 had international students, and that was considered a revolutionary idea at the time. For anyone that knows California history well, you know what was going around 1880. So having that type of perspective was important even back in the day. At any given time, we have 2,000 undergraduate students who are studying around the world. Maybe not now because of COVID, but definitely beforehand there was. Hopefully in post-COVID, we'll see those numbers go up again. We have study abroad programs in 60 cities, 30 countries, and over 5 different continents. One of the programs that we offer is called the faculty-led program. So this is more of a hands-on approach to learning offered between May and June. You take classes off campus somewhere in the United States or somewhere around the world with a professor and USC classmates. So some examples are a contemporary art history class in New York City. You could be taking an international business class in Shanghai. You could be taking an archaeology class in Rome and actually work at ancient Roman excavation sites. That's something I wish I took if I was a USC student. I was really interested in like Roman Empire history. So those are some of the programs and some of the more popular options our students take advantage of. Additionally, we have one of the largest international student populations of any domestic college or university. We have one of the most well-established schools of international relations. For example, if anyone wants to be interested in diplomacy, like working for the United Nations or the United States State Department, or an NGO such as Amnesty International, we have professors who are very well established in the field that knows that realm very well. So if you want to be connected to it, if you want to have some professional development with it, you definitely can here. Additionally, we have international abroad offices. So we have offices in places like London, Shanghai, Mexico City, just to name a couple examples. And they're there to really extend USC resources globally. So we just want our students to know that our resources and support is not just limited to Los Angeles or California, it's everywhere throughout the world. So no matter what you do or wherever you go, the USC presence is going to be nearby, and the USC network and the resources is going to be nearby. But what better way to talk about global perspectives than talking about one of the most global cities in the world, which is Los Angeles. We are the second largest urban area in the United States. It's super diverse in terms of religion, in terms of culture and linguistic backgrounds. We have some of the largest centers of ethnic communities outside of their home areas. So for example, we have the largest Iranian community outside of Iran. We have the largest Armenian community outside of Armenia. We have the largest Korean community outside of the Korean Peninsula, just to name a few. Additionally, there's $1 trillion of economic activity happening in our city. To put that into perspective, if LA was its own country, we'd have the 15th largest economy in the world. And that's larger than Chile, Greece, and Vietnam combined. We are in a very prime location, being considered an urban campus, so 3 miles away from downtown, 5 miles away from Hollywood, 8 miles away from Santa Monica. There's something always going on as a researcher, as an academic, as a professional. even as an entertainer. And our career center can really help you out with this. So we have career advisors that can look at your resume, they can look at your cover letter, they can even find the opportunities you might not be able to on your own. Our students graduate with at least 2 or 3 internships under the belt. So we do our very best to make sure that we prepare our students for, post-grad world and post-grad work. LA is the Western hub for art and culture. It's a gateway to the Pacific Rim, and we're so fortunate that our campus is in the middle of all of this. USC wouldn't be the same without LA. We would also like to think that LA wouldn't be the same without USC. Additionally, I like to mention that, New York City is known as a city that never sleeps. I like to think that LA is a city that never stops having fun. So there's always something for you to do here. We're half an hour away from the beach. We're actually an hour away from skiing and hiking. That took me by surprise from someone who always thought like Tahoe was the place for you to ski in the entire state. But no, there's a lot of places for you to do that here. In terms of the city itself, there's a vibrant art scene, such as the Arts District, the Getty, Los Angeles County Museum of Art. We have a very vibrant music scene for anyone that's interested in, watching concerts or being involved in it. Same with sports. If you want to watch a Lakers game, Chargers game, Dodgers game, just to name a couple, and a very vibrant food scene. I think LA has one of the most diverse food scenes out there in the country. So if you definitely want to explore your palate outside of American food and cuisine, you can definitely do that here. One more thing. If there's one thing that people think of when they think about LA, top 3, I imagine cars and traffic is going to be one of them. Yes, we do have a strong car culture, but you don't need one to get around campus. We're conveniently located by 2 metro stops. One's called the Red Line, the other's called the Expo Line. The Expo Line can take you all the way to Santa Monica. The Red Line can take you to downtown LA and all the way up to North Hollywood. If you're okay with the transfers, you can definitely get anywhere else in the city for $1.75, but as a USC student, you get them discounted for $1. So the city is very accessible, very easy to get around. Additionally, we have partnered up with Lyft. So if you want to take a Lyft ride within a 2-mile radius of campus, you can do that free of charge. You can go literally anywhere. You can go to your house, you can go to another apartment, you can even go to Taco Bell, which is actually what most students use it for. So a lot of ways for you to get around the city. But that's everything related to what you can do off campus. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do on campus. So we do guarantee housing for the first 2 years, suites, dorms, and apartments. You don't have to live on campus. You're not required to live off campus, but 98% of our first year students do choose to do so. You place them in residential colleges. So this usually has a faculty living advisor. So this is a professor that lives with our students. They're not there to babysit you or enforce curfew. There is no curfew, by the way. Or make sure that you're eating your meals. They're there to just give you that meaningful connections that a lot of our students want outside of the classroom environment. One of the great things about college is being able to get to know your professors, and we try to make sure that we give that as much access to that as possible. We also have over 1,000 registered student organizations and clubs. So they really range. They can be a service-based club, such as like Interact or Key Club. They can be politically oriented. They can be social justice oriented. They can be hobby-based or service-based. It really is a club for everyone. And we have the Involvement Fair, which happens every semester. The Involvement Fair is a big showcase of all the active clubs for that academic year or semester. I walked through it myself a couple weeks ago. Some of the clubs out there were like an esports club, data analytics for medicine club, Model UN. I saw Will Ferrell fan club, which took me by surprise. I mean, he was an alumni, but I guess people really enjoyed like Elf and Step Brothers. There was also a Quidditch club, which didn't think was possible, but hey, I guess anything is possible in college. So there really is a club for everyone out there. Even if you don't find one that you particularly like, you're more than welcome to make your own. You just need 3 other friends and a faculty advisor, and boom, you got another club. Additionally, we have a pretty strong sports scene. So anyone who's interested in intramural sports to involve yourself or participate in sports, you can. If you want to watch sports, we're part of the Pac-12. So that's football, basketball, volleyball. Additionally, 25% of our students are involved in Greek life. That's sororities, fraternities, and co-ed professional development ones. And we have student equity and inclusion programs. So, sorry, went over one. Student equity and inclusion programs. Some of them are La Casa, so Latinx and Chicanx Center for Advocacy and Student Affairs. We have CBCSA, the Center for Black Cultural and Student Affairs. We have APAS, Asian Pacific American Student Services, LGBTQ+ at SC. just to name a few. But no matter what group you identify with, there are spaces and communities available to you here at USC. Diversity has always been an important part of our mission, and we strive to have the most inclusive class possible. Additionally, we have over 90 organizations for every world, faith, and perspective. And regarding the physical campus itself, it's densely packed. It's a 2 square mile campus. Sometimes I wonder how we fit more than 40,000 people in it, but there's a lot of green spaces. So we do have art galleries, we have museums, we have libraries. We also have the USC Village, which has a lot of retail centers. We have grocery stores such as Target and Trader Joe's, the Starbucks. And if any of you have seen it, or if you haven't seen it, it kind of feels like Italy in the sense of there's a huge square, a lot of collegiate Gothic style type of architecture. So it's a big marvel. It's also one of the largest housing projects in Southern California history. So there's a lot for you to do on campus and for you to check out. But all of this is wrapped around the idea of the Trojan family. So we are lifelong and a worldwide type of community. There's over 400,000 living alumni. It's a community of shared values such as entrepreneurial spirit, responsibility, dedication, innovation. And it's not just a community for you to just cheer on at a football game, but also there to help you. Two examples I can think of is one of our student ambassadors, his name's Soam, who was really interested in city politics. He knew that an alumni was working at Redondo Beach City Hall, and he sent out an email asking them about their experience, and the city council member responded back, talking about what they liked, what they didn't like, what they wish they could improve upon, what they're working on right now. And at the end of the email, they said, by the way, if you're looking for a summer internship, you got it. And he was able to work at Redondo Beach City Hall that very same summer. Additionally, I have a friend who graduated with a degree in journalism and realized that they wanted to switch lanes. They wanted to work in entertainment, and they applied for a job at the X Factor since it was one of their favorite shows. And they went to the interview. One of the hiring managers was actually a USC alumni. Coincidentally, they were both journalism majors. They talked about their experience, about the job itself, about their candidacy. And then by next week, she got offered the job, and now she works at X Factor. So it's a big marvel of how supportive this community is. It sometimes, astounds me for myself. I went to DC or Washington, DC for a personal vacation. I was 3 blocks away from the Washington Mall and the monument. And I got a fight on from this elderly couple. So fight on's like our camaraderie. It's like our show sign saying like, good luck, keep fighting and stuff like that. And it really took me by surprise because I didn't think that there was a strong USC presence in the East Coast, but there I was completely wrong. So people are really proud to be part of the Trojan family, the Trojan community, super supportive, and I can't have enough nice words to say about them. But I also want to talk about, where we are in the world today. We are fully in person. So we were basically pretty tired of having virtual learning. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide an in-campus student experience. We're able to do this because 90% of our community is vaccinated. That's students, staff, and faculty. Additionally, our students are subjected to a weekly COVID testing to make sure that our case rates are going down. And we have been doing a really good job managing all of that. We're hoping to stay in person throughout this entire academic year. But all of this is contingent upon doing our part to make sure that the pandemic is, completely decreasing. We understand that, certain rates in the country are higher. We're still in the middle of the pandemic, but again, as long as we're being persistent, as long as we're being responsible and science forward with our thinking, we're able to maintain these types of operations. I know I talk fast, definitely understand that. I know I threw a lot of information at you, but before I go ahead and talk about admissions, is there any questions I can answer about the student life or about the academics? If you are okay, just so we're not sitting in silence, give me either a quick thumbs up with your camera or give me a quick thumbs up with the emoji, just so I know that y'all are good. Okay. Seems like everyone is pretty content with that information, so great. Let's talk about admissions. So this is our philosophy up here, but I want to emphasize that it's a very nuanced and very complex process. So we operate under holistic review, which means that we review every application in its entirety, word for word, front to back. It'll be read multiple times by at least one person in our office, and it can be read by multiple people. It's a very human process, which means that there is no GPA cutoffs. there's no test cutoffs, but in the same boat, there's no guaranteed admission. We operate under a territory management model. So that means someone in our office is assigned to get to know your school. So, for example, I'm the territory manager for Sacramento. I do know the schools in Elk Grove very well. I know the curriculums for each one. I know what classes you can take, what you cannot take, how you're able to challenge yourselves, what organizations you can be a part of, who your counselors are. And again, we do this to make sure that we're doing our work in the most equitable way possible. Territory managers get to know these types of information, how to specialize in your school, so we understand what you can do, what you can't do, what's out of your control, what's in your control. Again, to make sure we're doing our work as fairly as possible. Context is very important in our process, and I'll say that again, just to make sure everyone understands. Context is very important in our process. We have two important dates. We do not have early action or early decision, but we have these dates for our own reasons. So for example, December 1st is the merit scholarship deadline. So if you want to be considered for any of our merit-based scholarships, these are not need-based, purely off the merit of your application. You just have to submit it by December 1st. There's no additional essay or additional application you have to fill out. All you have to fill out is your USC application, submit it to us. You'll automatically be considered as long as you send it by the December 1st deadline. If you're applying to a talent-based major such as film, dance, music, you're going to actually have to apply by this deadline regardless, because you're going to have to submit a supplemental application for these departments. Some of these can include extra essays, auditions, interviews, and the faculty from these departments need that extra time to review those materials. If you're not applying by the December 1st deadline, if you're not applying to a talent-based major, that's fine. January 15th is the final deadline to apply to USC. Two important notes I want to make sure that everyone understands is that if you're applying to a talent-based major, you will automatically be considered for all the merit-based scholarships. And we don't operate under early action. So early action usually means that you're interested in that school and you want to let that school know. Therefore, you will get an earlier decision. We don't do that. It doesn't matter when you apply. We'll review everyone holistically and equally. Again, no early action. This is the timeline up here. So if you apply by the December 1st deadline, you'll hear back by mid-February whether or not you were selected to move forward in the scholarship process. If you were selected to move forward, you've also been admitted into the university. I know that kind of contradicts what I just said, but again, everyone will still be reviewed equally. If you were selected to move forward in the process, that's the only time you hear of an earlier decision. Otherwise, you'll hear back by April 1st. April 1st is the deadline of when we let everyone know their final decision to USC. We don't have a wait list, so you'll get a admitted or not admitted response from us from this time. If you were admitted, you have until May 1st, which is the national candidate reply date. You have to let all your colleges know where you're going to be attending. So you have to let us know by May 1st if you are going to attend USC or if you're not going to attend USC. We use the Common Application. For those of you who don't know what this is, it's a web-based application that over 800 different colleges and universities use. You have one application, you submit it to all the colleges that you're applying to, has the same type of information. We have two additional requirements for you to do. There are two short essays and some quick take answers. I'll get into this later, but for now, please know that when you submit your Common Application to USC, we don't get this supplemental portion. And I've seen a lot of students have a delay in their application process because of this. So for the seniors in the room, if you're applying to USC, you have to actually hit submit to USC twice. First for the Common App, second for the supplemental portion. The supplemental portion does require you to choose up to two majors. One's a requirement, and we have to know what you're interested in studying. You cannot be undecided for your second choice major. For the first choice major. The second choice major, it's optional. You don't have to let us know, but if you are interested in the second choice, more than welcome to let us know. You can also be undecided for your second choice. Again, just to have an idea of what you'll be studying. We understand that plans change. We understand that you might not be committed to your first choice major, but again, we want an idea of what you will be studying. We received around 70,000 applications last year and admitted around 13% of those students. August 1st was the deadline, or was the time when we open up the application. So it is open. You can start on it right now. You're even able to submit it if you like to, but you don't have to worry about submitting your application until at least December 1st for the Merit Scholarship deadline. I'll also be breaking down the application components, first starting off with academics. So the academic record is your transcript. We want to see the courses you took and how you did in each of them. We want to see that you've challenged yourself. So what kind of classes did you take? Did you take honors? Did you take APs? If so, how did you do in each of them? Did you get A's? Did you get B's? Did you get C's? Again, we'd be interested in learning about, the rigor of your coursework. I also want to mention that some of your schools have switched to pass no pass due to virtual learning, or give you that option to. If you have taken class passes, no passes, that's fine. We understand that virtual learning is difficult and hard. And also, if your grades have suffered because of virtual learning, we also take that into consideration. So, don't worry about those types of things. Again, being territory managers, we understand the niches and the stuff that goes on with your schools. And we want to let you all know that it happens, and we'll take that into consideration. The test scores are, SATs, SAT, subject tests, stuff like that. We are actually test optional not only for this year, but for next. We understand that standardized tests bring stress to students, and we also understand that COVID-19 brought a lot of stress for all of y'all, so we want to alleviate some of that. Additionally, test scores have also been a small portion of our holistic review process, but we also welcome them if you want to submit your test scores. So if you want to, you can. You won't be put at an advantage for submitting your test scores. You won't be put at a disadvantage for not submitting your test scores. So totally up to you. And the same could be said for SAT subject tests, AP tests, IB tests. You can let us know, but again, you don't have to. The qualitative components are broken into 3 different pieces. So I'll start off with the activity summary. The activity summary, or the Common App, lets you list up to 10 different activities that you were involved in high school. They really take all different shapes and sizes. So leadership, responsibility, determination. It's not just limited to maybe the clubs or organizations that you're a part of in high school. So we are interested in learning about maybe your involvement in yearbook or Model UN or Key Club, but we're also interested in learning about maybe stuff that you've done outside, maybe different sports. Maybe you're part of a church youth group or a theater group. If you had a part-time job, if you had to volunteer a lot, if you had to have a lot of family responsibilities. So for example, if you had to babysit your younger siblings because your parents worked late, we want you to write that down because we see that as leadership and responsibility. If you had a part-time job working at Starbucks for example, we want you to write that down. If you had to volunteer a lot, write that down. If you had a lot of responsibilities for a certain organization, even if it meant that you were not president, please write that down because again, context is very important in our process. No matter how big or how little you find that activity, we want to have the chance to read about it in your application. There's also one category I left out, which is hobbies. So if you had a hobby that took a lot of time, so for example, if you played guitar in a band or played by yourself, that's fine. If you are very popular on TikTok and did a lot of content creation, that's also fine. Whatever it is, we want you to write it down. For the essays, the Common App has 6 different prompts for you to choose from. We don't have a preference on which one you choose, but we do want you to choose whichever one is easiest to answer. So the easiest to answer can be a challenge that you had in your life. It could be about a passion. It could be about a piece or a type of information that you feel that your application would be incomplete without it. So whatever it is, we want you to choose whichever one you find is the most important. We also want to make sure that this is personal. So this is one of the very few moments in the application where we're able to tell your story in your words, outside of the activities, outside of your transcripts. So we want to make sure that whatever you are talking about, it's personal to you. So additionally, I also want to say that, make sure that your writing is a reflection of who you are as an individual. What may have worked with one student may not work with you, and vice versa. It takes a lot of time for you to, reflect on who you are, or your identity, your experiences, your passions. So do take this time to consider what you want to write about. Students ask me all the time, how can they stand out in this application process? They ask me this almost every month, almost every week. And the answer I always give them is, how your writing reflects, who you are. A couple examples of essays that stood out to me over the years are I've had a student write about a Boy Scouts trip that went wrong and how they took a bigger leadership role. And that stood out to me because it was personal. I've had another student write about carving 6 hours every weekend to make sure that they go like hiking with their friends and why they did that. And it stood out to me because it was personal. I've had another student literally talk about why they love ranch dressing so much, but it had me on the edge of my seat because it was still very personal. It talked about like how their love has helped them with certain difficulties or how it helped them with their academics. So stood out to me because again, personal. So hopefully the common theme about these essays is about how it reflected them, how it's personal to them, and how it helped them stand out in this process. So my quick 2-word advice about essays: be personal. For the short answers, kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. USC requires 2 short answer essays for you to answer. The first one is just to get to know you a little bit more. The second one is essentially asking you what you're interested in studying and how USC can help you. It's really important for you to discuss why you are studying or why you want to study at USC. So, for example, if you're interested in psychology, there are thousands of psychology programs throughout the United States, but why do you want to specifically study psychology at USC? Is it the program? Is it a professor you want to learn from? Is it some of the classes you want to take? Is it the community here in general? But whatever it is, make sure you give us specifics and give us an idea of what your student experience will be like here at USC. So, one advice I would give you is employing the switch method. So, for example, I take out USC and I put in another college or university. And if your essay makes sense, you might want to work out the finer details or give us more specifics about why you want to specifically study here at USC. For quick takes, I'm going to start off by saying don't overthink this portion. Quick takes are just short, one sentence, one word answers. For us to get to know you on a more personal level, I feel like students every year spend more time on this than they do on their actual essays. It's not for you to overthink. It's just for us to get to know you a little bit more. You're able to show more of your creativity, for example. Some of the questions are like, what TV show you're going to binge watch next, who your ideal roommate is, what's your favorite snack. And it's really an opportunity for you to just showcase who you are outside of the application. So if I was applying to USC, one of the questions is, what's your dream job? For me, I write down Avenger because I've always wanted to be Tony Stark, but also I just wanted to be a billionaire. I've had other students write, pretty unique answers. I've had students write their favorite snack was hot Cheetos with mustard. I've also seen students write peanut butter and pickle sandwiches, which I know sounds strange, but as someone who also loves peanut butter and pickle sandwiches, they smack. Love those types of answers, really relatable. I've also seen students, say that their theme song in life is the Wii U theme song, but all the wrong notes are being played in the incorrect order, which I just thought was the funniest answer. So again, have fun with these. Just show us your creativity. You don't have to overthink this. There is no red flags. Again, have fun. For the department supplements, kind of mentioned this earlier. Depending on what your major is, you're going to have those additional requirements, whether that's essays, whether that's an interview, whether that's an audition. So do keep an eye out about what you're applying into. So some of these can be the Ivan and Young Academy, School of Music, School of Dance, School of Cinematic Arts, World Bachelors in Business, just to name a few. That's not a comprehensive list, but do keep an eye out. Someone asked me that if they want to do architecture, would they have to submit their work? The short answer is yes. The application for architecture does require you to submit a portfolio, just showcasing your experiences or your interests and how the architecture department can help you out with that. Sorry. Oops, there we go. School information. So for the letter recommendation, we do need one from an academic source. Academic sources are your teachers and your counselors. You're more than welcome to submit more than one, but quality over quantity. I've seen one really good letter be better than 10 mediocre letters, which I've seen some students do. Again, quality over quantity. Academic sources, again, teachers or your counselors. They're not your parent. They're not your neighbor who attended USC. They're not your dentist. We do take those, But again, we do prioritize academic letters. You can submit professional letters in case you had a supervisor or a manager who's willing to write you a letter, a coach who's willing to write you a letter, or a volunteer leader who's willing to write you a letter. For secondary school report, don't have to worry about this. Your counselor will take care of it. It's just a fact sheet of your school, the classes you can take, who the principal is, who your counselors are, and if there's anything that has changed within that year. So, for example, if grading policies have changed, we'll get to know that type of information. For international applicants, so anyone in this room, if you need a visa to study in the United States, that falls under you. If you do, you have two additional requirements. I'm going to start off with a financial statement. So in order to get a visa to study in the United States, you have to prove to the US government at an embassy or a consulate that you can afford USC's tuition for at least 1 year. If your native language is not English, you are going to have a second requirement. So we can accept tests such as Duolingo, TOEFL, IELTS, even the SAT, ACT to prove your English proficiency. If your native language is English, but you're considered a international student, this requirement's waived for you, but you still have to submit the financial statement. If you're an international student, this slide doesn't apply to you. If you are a domestic student, whether that's citizen, dual citizen, permanent resident, or undocumented, this slide does apply to you. I also want to acknowledge that we're expensive. Being a private university, most of us are expensive, but 2/3 of our students are receiving some form of financial assistance, and we meet 100% of a student's demonstrated financial need. What that means is the financial aid office will look at your family's finances, determine how much your family should contribute to the tuition, and then they will pay the rest of the difference. We are a need-blind institution in the admissions process, which means that we don't look at your finances as a factor to your application, because again, we want to make sure we're doing our work in the most equitable way possible. We have introduced the affordability initiative. So any families that is making less than $80,000, they will be able to send their child or student to USC tuition free. They don't have to pay for any of the tuition costs. We've awarded more than $680 million 2 academic years ago. We don't have the data yet for the 2020-2021 academic year, but once we do, we will include that in the application or the PowerPoint. But we expect that number to be increased probably around 730 million, I assume, ballpark figure, but it has definitely increased. But in order for you to qualify for any form of financial aid, you have to complete 2 profiles, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, by February 12th. In order for you to qualify for any of this financial aid, you have to apply by this deadline. We have the net price calculator, which is a tool that every college and university uses. It just gives you a rough estimation of what your financial aid package might look like. Again, rough estimation. You put your finances in there. It tells you what you might contribute to the tuition, what your grants, your loans, your aids looks like. So again, rough estimation. Any detailed information that you want to know about financial aid, about that entire process, about financing your education, not just with USC, but maybe about college, please check out that website below, financialaid.usc.edu. A lot of cool resources for you to check out. But that brings the end of my presentation. I know I kind of talked fast. I know there's a lot of information I threw at you, but that's my email. If any of you want to connect with me after this, maybe later in life, at least in this, like next year, please feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to connect with anybody, answer any questions, or at least guide you in the right direction in case I don't know how to answer your question. But don't let us be your only resource. I have 2 additional that I highly recommend. The first one's the Instagram. So at USC Admission, we are very vibrant on there. We post weekly. We have student takeovers on our Instagram stories. So for those of you who don't know what takeovers are, it's like TikToks or Instagram Reels, day in a life of a USC student. They walk you through their day, what classes they're taking, what organizations that they're involved in, and they answer any prospective students' questions along the way. So it's a great way for you to connect with any USC student that you're interested in. Additionally, we have the blog, admissionblog.usc.edu. I think it's a very underrated resource. Not many students know about this. There's a lot of good blogs and articles out there about the admissions process, about financial aid, student life, some of our lingo, for example. So if there's any questions you have, the blog has a lot of cool resources for you to learn and for you to just read upon in your free time. But again, Instagram is very active. The blog is very active. We're not very active on Twitter or Facebook, so you don't really have to check those out. But I do want to give a huge plug to Instagram and the blog. I'm done. Not like I'm done talking, but like that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully everyone has written their emails. I'm going to go ahead and take any questions that all of y'all have. I'll read the direct messages, but if you could, you don't have to send me the direct messages. If you could just open up to everyone so that way they know what the kind of questions that you're asking. Should I do FAFSA CSS as a junior, or is this only for incoming freshmen? You have to do this before the start of the academic year. So if you are applying to USC as a freshman, you have to apply as a senior now. If you're applying as a sophomore in college, you have to apply as a freshman of that date. It's the same dates, February 12th. You have to apply for this every year because your finances change every year. So your financial aid package will look a little bit different every year. So for example, if you win $1 million, or if your family wins like $1 million, your financial aid package is going to look a little bit differently next year because they want to allot that type of finance for someone who might not be able to win $1 million. So that is something that you have to apply every year. What is your IB and AP credit policy? We do take AP and IB scores or test scores to fulfill certain general education requirements. So I know that most of Elk Grove schools rely on AP, so I'm just going to talk about APs. If you take an AP test and you score a 4 or 5, we'll take up to 4 college credits. And depending on the AP test, so for example, if you took AP biology and you got a score of a 4 or 5, that will fulfill your life science requirement here at USC. We take up to 32 college units. So it's very possible for you to start at USC and then finish your first semester and then have sophomore status because of the amount of AP credits that you were able to take. If you got a score of a 3 or a 2, we don't take those whatsoever. You have to score a 4 or 5 in order for us to accept it. Wow, there's a lot of questions. This is good. As a journalism major, would I have to send any extra supplemental writing? Nope. If you're applying into the Marshall School of Business, just for business administration, you don't have to. Annenberg School of Journalism, you don't have to. School of Engineering, yes, you have 2 additional short answer essays. For World Bachelors in Business, you have 4. And for the School of Arts, any School of Arts, so that's cinema, that's dance, that's music, you're going to have a completely separate application and audition process. Are you going to share the presentation? Unfortunately not. We do this just to protect our information. It does change. It can change. If there is any information that you want, you can just check out our website. Most of it you can find on our website. So if you just type in uscadmission.edu, you can find a lot of the things that we have presented can be found on there. The specific presentation itself, we don't record this, and usually students don't record us and they don't have our permission to. Again, just to create an atmosphere of where students are able to ask their questions and they don't feel like their space is being invaded. Would you go over the links that are mentioned? Yeah, so most important links are, uscadmission.edu or admissionblog.usc.edu or financialaid.usc.edu. So those are a couple of the links that I think are very important. Does obtaining an IB diploma count as honors to USC? That's a very interesting question. Technically not. So usually when students apply to USC and get admitted, it's a clean slate because again, everyone who's admitted has, deserves their spot and they are on equal footing. If you want to get into any type of honors programs at USC, you have to apply into it. And you cannot apply into it until you have been admitted into our institution. So that some of these can be science honors or thematic options. So you can apply it when you get admitted, but for now, an IB diploma or receiving a ton of AP credits is not considered like an honors work. Okay, sorry. Does the holistic admission process consider students who have transferred during the high school career? Yes. We understand that things happen. You're sometimes not able to stay at the same high school all 4 years. We understand that sometimes that can lead with difficulty, such as decreased GPA or culture shock, depending on where you're coming from. We do take that into consideration. So again, being part of holistic review means that we understand these students. If you transfer schools within like the US, so for example, if you went to New Jersey and then you ended up in Elk Grove, if you spend half of the time in New Jersey, half the time here, the person from New Jersey will be able to read your application, or the person who specializes in New Jersey will be able to tell me like what was challenging, what was not challenging, what they were able to take advantage of, stuff like that. So we do take everything like that into consideration because again, each application is unique. I don't think students get told this enough, especially in this type of process, is that everyone is unique. We want to be able to have you talk about that, talk about your different experiences, and we also want to take that into consideration in our process. Many of my extracurriculars had to change after transferring. Same, we understand that dedication takes all different shapes and sizes. So we understand that you might not be able to continue the same type of activities because they might not be offered at the new school. We also want to understand, that happens, but how you adapted from that. So maybe you took a new hobby, maybe you created a new club, so that way you're able to continue it. So whatever it is, we want to see how you've adapted from that change. And the same can be said about COVID. We understand a lot of clubs and organizations had to discontinue because of COVID. We want to see how you've adapted in those environments as well. How many letters of recommendation do we need again? Just one from an academic source, so teacher or counselor. So if you have one letter from a counselor, you've met the requirement. You're more than welcome to submit, more than one. Again, you don't have to. Quality over quantity. If you are admitted and completed full IB, how many credits or years does that give you? Same type of cap, 36 units. We try to make sure that students graduate graduate with a USC degree and have a USC education. So you're more than welcome to submit all these different test scores, see what kind of requirements you're able to get out of. But again, you're probably going to still spend 3 years here if you're trying to graduate early, or you can go up to 4. Getting a bachelor's at USC does entitle you to 8 semesters or 4 academic years. Is there anything for computer science? Mark, what do you mean by your question? Do you mean if there's additional essays or supplements? Like, you mean like the type of classes available for computer science, or is there requirements for the computer science major? And you can also unmute it in case typing takes too long. Could you answer both? Okay, so technically there's no minimum requirements for the computer science major. You can apply to USC as long as you are graduating from high school. However, a competitive computer science major will be continuing with their math education. We understand that some schools in Elk Grove offer AP computer science. We understand that some schools do not. So we don't, penalize students if they're not able to take those types of classes, but we hope to see a continuing math education. So for example, you could be taking geometry in freshman year, and then algebra 2, and then pre-calculus, and then calculus. As long as you're trying to continue your math education, that's what the School of Engineering, which hosts the computer science major, cares about. Is there anything that you recommend that I do before applying for architecture, like any classes? Honestly, same deal with any of our schools. We don't expect you to take any architecture classes. We don't expect you to take cinema classes because we understand that a lot of high schools don't offer that type of stuff. What they do look for is, passion, which I know sounds very vague, but they just want to see how you were able to take initiative on that. So for example, if you're interested in architecture, what have you done specifically to show that you are interested in it? Did you take classes online with, a certain, I can't think of, like Khan Academy, for example? Did you take classes at architecture with Khan Academy? Were you able to take an internship or take a shadowship about architecture, whether that's with an architect or an architectural firm? Did you make any designs yourselves? Did you play a lot of architecture-based games? I know Sims isn't really an architecture game, but I've seen students talk about Sims in their architecture applications. So totally up to you how you want to interpret your experience, but at the end of the day, they just want to make sure that you're have an idea of what the program entails and how you are ready to take on that type of work. Are there any other questions I can answer? I know I ran over my time, but I just want to make sure that anyone who is interested in USC or admissions process or student life will be able to have their questions answered.
Yes. Can you tell me about your international relations program?
Yeah, so we have one of the most well-established international relations program in the country. Something I always like to boast about as someone who basically was an international relations major. Most of their classes are allowing you to have an emphasis on region along with a language. So most of our students who are in the Dornsife College of Letters and Arts and Sciences have a foreign language requirement. That's 3 semesters. For international relations, it's 4. And they usually want you to have a focus on the region that you're studying. So for example, if you want to have a particular focus on like East Asia, they do want you to have a foreign language in either like, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Japanese, just to name a few. Additionally, they have a good emphasis on not only theory but practical approaches. So you can have an emphasis on like peace and conflict resolution. You can have an emphasis on culture itself or history, or even mixing it up with like diplomacy. I would say it's pretty hands-on work. You are going to be doing a lot of case studies. You also have an opportunity to do research about like different relations of different regions or about native studies. So when I say native, it's about like certain ethnic groups within that region. When you study China or even India, you understand that it's not just those ethnicities, but there's also multiple tribes and multiple ethnicities within those regions. So you're able to have a type of emphasis and focus on that. Sorry, I just realized there's a couple more questions. Are school sports a big part of student life? So there's this big rumor that when you go to like a sports school that it has to be like really big or like you have to be involved in it. That's not necessarily the case. We've had many students who are interested in the sports culture here, and they definitely do partake, whether that's tailgates or watching football games or getting season passes and stuff like that. We've also have students who don't even know a thing about football and they don't participate whatsoever, and they're able to have a meaningful, impactful USC experience that way. So it is a part of the campus experience here, but you don't have to be involved in it to get a USC experience. So it's totally up to you how you want to partake in that. You can attend a game here and there. You can go to the tailgates. You can attend everything. You can attend nothing. But again, totally what you make of it. All right, I can probably take one more question before I have to wrap it up. Anything I can help with? Alex, I saw you see yourself on mute. Did you have a question?
So can you discuss? Yeah, I have a question. Can you discuss a little bit about your law program?
Yeah, good question. So law is specifically usually reserved for law students, but we do have a pre-law program. Same with like pre-med. The pre-law program is just to give you the networking abilities outside of the classroom experience. So in case you are looking to intern at a law firm, they can definitely help you out with that. They also pair you up with a mentorship, so make sure that anyone who is a law student or anyone who's affiliated with that can give you that type of experience as an undergraduate student. Additionally, law school does have certain prerequisites that you have to take, such as like an advanced writing class. So they're there to make sure that you are competitive for law school. 98% of our students do get into law school, or 90% of the pre-law students do get into law school. So they just are there to make sure that you are prepared, that you are competitive, and to make sure that you have an understanding of what it's like to be a law student and to get a law degree, or the practices after all of that, whether that's interning at a law firm or getting experience with a law professor. Additionally, sorry, I forgot to mention, you're also able to like specialize or have a focus on what type of law that you want to learn from. So if you're interested in like family law, corporate law, human rights law, the Gold School of Law actually has a really good program about human rights law for anyone who's interested. That's either political science, international relations, or history. It's a good way for you to get that type of experience and exposure. All right. I think that's all the questions I have for y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and then go all the way back to the front of the page just to make sure that anyone who hasn't filled out the QR code, please do. Go ahead, take a quick photo, make sure that you fill this out just so that I know who I was talking to. Just make sure that you've also attended. You do get emails from us about important dates and deadlines, about cool sessions that you can be involved in. So it's a great way for you to get connected with USC. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your days to learn about our institution. I talk really fast. I'm sorry. But hopefully you were able to pick up a lot of good information out of this. Thank you again, and have a good day, y'all.